Hey everyone, this is Courtney and welcome to the Incessant Bookworm. If you haven't already done so, please head over to my Instagram or my Twitter and check out those feeds because I post other bookish content that aren't on this channel, so feel free to head over there. So today I have a list of short and sweet books since it is daylight savings coming up this weekend on November 1st. It's a Sunday, which means we get an extra hour of sleep, we fall back, and this is some people's not really favorite time of the year because it gets darker earlier in the evening, but I like it because then there's more sunshine in the morning when I wake up, and it's been really hard for me lately to get up with the same kind of energy since I usually get up at like 6:45, 7-ish to start work at 7:30, and it's dark and I don't like it. So I'm very excited about this extra hour of sleep, one, and then two, getting more sunlight in the morning. So in the US, I think almost every state practices this daylight savings time change. I think there's maybe Arizona and like another state might be the ones that don't recognize it, which I think gets kind of confusing. But anyway, I still think it's fun. But what this also means is that even though we get an extra hour, the day seems shorter. So I thought it'd be fun to give you short and sweet books that you can finish in a day. And with an extra hour this weekend coming up, why not throw in some more books and more time for reading? So that's what we're gonna do today. So since these books are relatively short and you can read them in one day, they're pretty much like less than 200 pages or maybe right around 200 pages. I thought I'd give a quick short excerpt or like synopsis because once I start talking about a book, I like start going into the plot too much, and then it's going to turn into like a 45 to 60 minute video, and we don't have time for that. Even though there's an extra hour, you're not going to want to use your hour watching this video, most likely. If you do, that's great. So first up I have I'd Rather Be Reading by Anne Bogel, and even though this is pretty short, I had enough time to put all these sticky tabs and notes in, but Anne Bogel runs the Modern Mrs. Darcy blog, the What Should I Read Next podcast, and a bunch of other bookish things, so she's like my idol when it comes to bookish blogs and reading and all that kind of stuff. So this, I think, is her first book, maybe her second, but it's all about these little short stories and snippets of how to kind of like add more reading into your life and kind of the value and benefit of reading, however much you are able to read in the year, and what she values about local bookstores, libraries, how she set up a home library for herself and her kids. But it's just very delightful and enjoyable, very quick read for sure. Next up, I have Brooklyn by Colm Tóibín. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but this is an Irish writer, I believe. And this story I absolutely loved. I read the book first before I saw the movie with Saoirse Ronan, but this is about an Irish young woman who comes to America as an immigrant right after World War II and is starting to make a life there and send some money home. But she meets this Italian-American young man as well, and develops a relationship there. So it's just interesting to see kind of like the immigration story back in that time period and kind of what struggles they went through, finding community with other immigrants, or in this case, other Irish folks in the Brooklyn area. So I absolutely loved the story. It's a cool blend of like a home country and a place that you will eventually call home and get citizenship there. So love this too. Next up, I have 84 Charing Cross by Helene Hanff, and this absolutely love. Like, I think I'm going to say this plenty of times for the books that I have listed here for the short and sweet books, but again, super small. And this is basically correspondence, and it's a true story, or true correspondence and letters that were written between this woman who is in New York and a bookseller in England, and they write back and forth to each other, giving each other recommendations. And it started out with her just asking for, hey, I'm looking for a book kind of like this, and she gave her interests and things like that, and then they kind of developed their friendship through that. And I thought that was really cool that they were able to have this relationship for I think 2 decades. It was quite a long time, just through letters and snail mail. So I thought that was really cool, kind of crossing the divide over the Atlantic Ocean. And eventually Helene does get to head over to London, but it's after the bookseller passes away. But it's cool to see how the families and the other booksellers at that bookstore like kind of already know about her, because he talked about her a lot, and kind of vice versa for her friends and family back in America. So woohoo on this one. So we also have a graphic novel for Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi, and this tells the story of a young woman, I think ages 6 to her teens, in Iran during the Islamic Revolution. So she's living in Tehran and just experiencing what that is like and what her family is experiencing. And as she's growing up, she's understanding a little bit more about the country and about what the reality is and what's going on. So this, again, it's a graphic novel. It's black and white images. This is also a film. I read this during my film adaptations class a few years ago, where we read a piece of literature and then watched the adaptation, if it was like true to it or not, just to get an artistic take on the text itself. But this was probably the first graphic novel one that I read and two that I really enjoyed. Next up, we have another nonfiction book, and that is Everything That Remains by the Minimalists. So that is Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus. And these gentlemen, oh my God, I have been blown away. I saw their documentary first on Netflix. I think it's just called Minimalism or The Minimalists, but it's about living with less, but you're living more with less things. And I appreciated that mindset so much. It literally takes a weight, not just off your shoulder, but just out of your home of things that you don't use anymore. And it's not just material goods, but it's also experiences, people that aren't positive influences in your life, and how do you go through that process of decluttering or removing that negative energy or things that aren't really adding value to your life. So definitely loved this. I've read this multiple times. And get something new out of it every time. Also, we have What Kind of Woman by Kate Baer, and this is a poetry collection. I read this a few weeks ago, and this comes out, I believe, November 10th. So in a few weeks. So wouldn't be able to read this necessarily on daylight savings this weekend, but maybe the next time it's a blah day or it feels like a very short day and you want to accomplish something, you can read through these poems. And like I've shown before, like I've also tabbed these with these gold tabs here. It's a short read because the poems are written in shorter stanzas, and some of them are less than a page long. But absolutely love the cover art on this too. And she talks about feminism and being a strong, independent woman. What does that mean in relationships, within your job, as a mother, if you choose to be? So I appreciated her take on that in the poetry form. As we are still in the spooky season, I have The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. And this has also been adapted into The Haunting of Bly Manor on Netflix, but a lot of creative freedom was taken with that story on the TV series. But this is a ghost story. It's about a governess who comes to raise or help raise these two children, Miles and Flora, and then the ghosts of people who've come taking care of them in years past come back and like check in on them, and the governess is trying to figure out what to do. I first heard of this book, it was the name of a CSI episode, or Crime Scene Investigators or Investigation, with Gil Grissom, like the original Vegas edition on CBS, I believe. And I still remember the episode. It was about a roller coaster accident, well, it's a crime, because somebody died on it, with it not being a accident. It had to do with literally the turning of the screw of the roller coaster itself, where I think it got derailed or something like that. So apologies for the violence that I'm sharing based off that episode. But yeah, I just like remembered Gil Grissom gave like a quote from the story, and then somebody asked him like what that was about, and then he said the turn of the screw. And I'm like, oh, I'm very intrigued by this. So I didn't actually read it until many, many years later, but I started the series, got like 20 minutes in and got spooked. Because it's like the quiet, jumpy kind of scenes. It's not the like music leading up to it when you know something is about to happen. And like, I can't stand when that happens, when it's just so quiet and you know it's going to happen, but you want to have the music tell you something's going to happen, so you're ready for it. And that was starting to happen. And I'm like, nope, I'm done for now. So maybe I'll go back to it during the daylight and we'll see. Next, we have Bottled Goods by Sophie Van Leeuwen, and I just finished this weekend during the Dewey's 24-hour readathon, so it is possible to read this in a day because I just did it. And this was an ARC sent to me by Harper Perennial. So this tells a story of Alina, I think that's how you say her name, but she is in Romania. We start with her like maybe early 20s or late teens, and then go throughout her life in the communist nation of Romania back in the 1960s through 1989. And Romania has been a country that has been of interest to me since I saw some films a few years ago, but I didn't know about this history, about the communist past. So it was interesting to see kind of what that was like and how that is no longer a thing. But yeah, it kind of takes her through that time period and kind of the danger of it, the risks and sacrifices that are made to get freedom, and what happens when somebody defects or leaves the country and abandons it. So very interesting read, and it's told in bursts of what they call flash fiction. So different kind of storytelling that I appreciated, and again, very short because you're getting through it very quickly. Last but not least, we have The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch, and this I read during, well, most of it during a silent book club meeting in Cincinnati. This was the last one before quarantine happened, so I think this was our February meetup. But this is pretty short. It is a bunch of like short snippets and like lessons learned by Randy himself, because he wrote the book, but he found out that he had cancer or he was dying, and he kind of took the approach of what would be my legacy, or what would I want to tell my children? What kind of lessons do I want to give to them as they grow up? Because I think he has like 2 or 3 kids and he's married. So it is sad, but it also gives little nuggets of like living your life with meaning and purpose. So again, like short, very short stories and huge margins, big text, but a very empowering and inspiring book. All right, so those are all the books I wanted to share with you. I'm sure there's plenty more that we can read in a day, maybe multiple that you can read in one day as well. There was one book, I believe it was Tolstoy and the Purple Chair by Nina Sankovitch, I want to say is her last name. But she was grieving, and she, from the loss of her sister, I believe, and she read a book a day for a year, and some of them were not as short as the ones that I just shared with you. And she is a mom, and I believe she worked full-time as well, and was able to read like full-on books like a Tolstoy book, hence the name, and other kind of like lengthy classics. So I don't know if I'm that committed or determined or had that kind of trauma in my life to want to read a book a day like that. I don't know, it's a good challenge, but I'd have to have the right reasons to do it. And she definitely did for what she was going through. But this time right now, I don't think I have that kind of mindset. But anyway, these are a little bit shorter and more manageable, maybe on a weekend, and you can finish. So hope you enjoyed that list. Otherwise, I'm filming this on a Monday. I'm on day 22, I think, of Whole30. It kind of gets kind of mixed up when you get past like the halfway point. I'm like, is it over yet? So yes, Whole30, day 22. I finish on election day. So friendly reminder, PSA, make sure you vote if you haven't already in the US, either by mail-in, drop-off, or in person, or early voting if you can. So little plug for that. But anyway, I plan to celebrate me being done Whole30, which is probably like the opposite thing you should be doing, is like gorging on all these foods you haven't been eating for 30 days. But I'll try to ease into it, but I definitely want to celebrate because it's also going to be the start of my birthday month. So that is also starting on daylight savings of November 1st. So my birthday is on the 16th. Very excited about it, turning 31. So I don't really do like a huge, like, oh, this whole month I'm celebrating, but why not? I just ended Whole30 on November 3rd. So I'm going to buy myself a cheese pizza and probably have a beer or something. Wow, going crazy, I know. But I've been feeling pretty good. I just, before filming this, I went for a run and just finished the 1,020 kilometers for the year. It's like this challenge through Under Armour that you kind of log your miles or kilometers. I think 1020 kilometers is over 600 miles. I'm not really good at doing the conversions and the math. But that is something I am excited that I was able to do this year, because I was nervous with quarantine and not being able to get out as much, or feeling like I'm too tired or not as energetic. And doing Whole30 kind of helped me get back into that, because it gives you energy back, because you don't feel sluggish or as run down because you're not eating a lot of processed foods anymore. You're eating more naturally. So that I feel has been a benefit for doing the program and just like getting me back out there and running again. So NaNoWriMo starts next week as well, also on November 1st. What a big day. So I will be jumping into my 50,000 word goal for the month of November to write a novel. So hope I can get your support. I will be posting pretty regularly about my status of where I'm at. I'll be doing more vlogs, probably the same kind of schedule of like a weekly vlog, but it'll be more about what the process or the progress is of NaNoWriMo or National Novel Writing Month. So you'll get some updates there. And then I'll also be posting on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So make sure you're following those for kind of live updates if you don't want to wait until the week of for my vlog to come out. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to keep supporting me in a different kind of way, I've listed my Ko-fi and Amazon wishlist links below, and feel free to contribute to that if you see fit. But otherwise, I'm going to go back to work because this is my lunch break, and I will talk to you all later. So have a great day and happy reading.